I've never been so happy to talk about this case because I just got back from spending 3 hours with my parents. That was like a week's worth of energy dealing with them for 3 hours. It's like they're individual issues, and then they bicker with each other, and then each one of them pulls me into a room to talk shit about the other one, and then they both want my help, and I'm like, where were you when I needed help when I was a kid? Anyway. So let's talk about this instead. It's always a strategic decision as to whether you want somebody to be a witness for you. And you're measuring the positives versus the negatives, right? The positives here is, of course, he has information that could potentially help Blake Lively, assuming he's willing to testify to it. He could testify as to what her emotional state was. He could testify about the other side of some of these meetings. He could testify about some of the stuff that happened on set. And presumably another pro is that, he is a likable public figure. Presuming the people on the jury are not going to know, they're not going to hate or love any of these people, or they won't get on the jury, he can make himself very charming, right? Those are pros. The cons are that everything he's ever said or done in public can be brought up. And that can be good and bad because he's not living his life in a way to be a credible witness for a sexual harassment case. He's living his life to be an actor. And when folks are out there like this that have tons and tons of media out there, they can bring up everything you ever said. So it could be a really tough cross-examination for him. Another con is that if he were to testify on the emotional distress stuff and say, I'm the person who's going to tell you what it was like for her, that can really easily open a door into their marriage. Because she said in her complaint that this stuff hurt her family relationships. And she can still testify to that. But if he testifies to it too, and they put that in issue, that can open up a whole Pandora's box of asking this guy about what their marriage is like. Because if someone says, this hurts, and I'm not saying their marriage is bad, I don't know. I wouldn't want anybody asking about my marriage on the stand either. And I think my marriage is pretty good. But if he were to get on the stand and say, this was really hard for her and our marriage suffered, what the Wayfarer people are going to do, because it's their job, is to point out all the other things that could have been making their marriage bad. Including, well, are you a good husband? How often do you guys have sex? Right? Like, how do we know your marriage was good before that? And they'll start digging in, and that can become really intrusive and invasive. Maybe it's better for Blake Lively to, look like this hurt her alone. Maybe it's better in front of a jury to say, no, it's not like, I have this great supportive husband who's going to testify for me. Maybe it's better to have him sitting in the gallery and look like he's, really going through it, watching her talk. But this is her story about her pain, and she's going to tell it. That could be a strategy, and it could be a strategy that works. There's also a really big con with Ryan, which is that all of the things that were in Wayfarer's case that got dismissed, and the things about him, some of those things could be brought up on cross-examination as credibility issues. And so if Ryan Reynolds got up there to testify and he gave a compelling testimony about what this did to his wife and how awful this was and what a terrible person Baldoni was, the very first thing that Wayfarer is going to ask on cross-examination is, why the fuck did you let her keep going there? If you thought your wife was being sexually harassed, and I know that that's a sexist question, I get it, but this is how jury trials work. They are a show. They are a production. And then they're going to say, so rather than find a way to help your wife, what you decided to do instead was to call Baldoni's manager and his agent and tell them they should drop him because he's a predator. That's how you fix the issue. You didn't actually go to Baldoni and say, stop harassing my wife. You didn't tell her, pull out of the project, I'll fix this for you. You shit-talked Baldoni. Now, evidence-wise, it probably doesn't matter, but I'm just saying, he has had a lot of involvement in this case that would make him a difficult witness to control once it got to cross. And that could be part of it, too.